Lupus LA would like to thank our generous sponsors for their support of the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. We thank GSK for their focus on autoimmune disease and their continued support of Lupus LA. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lupus LA podcast, Your Story, Our Fight. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, and as always, I want to thank our sponsor, GSK Pharmaceuticals, for allowing us to share these incredible lupus stories. And we certainly have one of those today. I want to welcome Connie Sparks to the show. Connie is the owner of Wadeco Business Center, owns her own business, helping businesses apply for grants, and we're going to talk all about that. But obviously, she's a lupus patient and has been helped a lot by Lupus LA. So I know we're going to get into that too. And I'm really excited to talk to you. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Adam. Great to see you again.
Great to see you. Welcome to the show. Tell me a little bit about your lupus story. I always sort of start with people's childhood because I think sometimes there's symptoms that go back a long time. So tell me kind of how you grew up and when you first started to notice that you had some lupus symptoms.
So growing up, I wouldn't say that I was sickly. You know, I was very active. I loved, I was always on the drill team, the cheerleader. I even played some football, so I'm a very active person. But I think it was probably late college that I started experiencing like joint pains, right? So, but because I'm an active person, I assumed that it was something from, as a result of me, playing, football and golfing and tennis, things like that. But over time, and then it went away. But it really wasn't until 2001 when I really started experiencing a lot of the symptoms. That's when I would go to the doctor. At that time, I was with Kaiser, and I would go in and they could never figure out why I'm having so much pain, what was going on. And I think it's because at that time, doctors really wasn't as much in tune with lupus as they are today. So they kept misdiagnosing me. It was arthritis. I mean, I got diagnosed with some of everything to the point where they started calling me a subject because they couldn't figure out what was happening with me.
And did you ever see a rheumatologist at that point, or just nobody suggested that? Nobody thought
to send me to a rheumatologist. It was always just a GM. I would even go to emergencies because I would be in so much pain. But they just could not figure it out, to a point where they thought I was faking it, thought I was a hypochondriac. Like, no, I'm really in pain. So,
and what were you doing at this point in your life? This is post-college now?
Yeah, this is post-college. So I was, working in education. I was an administrator, and, I was under a lot of stress. So it was a very stressful position. And I think that really triggered everything for me. So it wasn't until 2008 when I was formally diagnosed.
So you really had 7 years of back and forth with doctors, symptoms with no clear answers.
Yes, correct.
And what does that do mentally to you? I mean, do you think, how does that affect you?
So mentally, I started thinking, okay, is this really, something, psychological, right? Because if they can't figure out what's happening with me, could it be psychological? I even started seeing a psychiatrist, a therapist. And unfortunately, that didn't help because it didn't help the pain go away. But my stressors, all the things that triggered my stressors, it just, exacerbated my pain. But I did have 6 months of No pain, just being pain free, meaning that this was a time that I had to take off of work. And that's when I really kind of put everything together, that it was really stress and work related. Because when I took that 6 months off, I had a 6 month leave. Um, I, I mean, it was like a miracle drug for me because it was pain free.
So you took the 6 months off because you were not, you took it off physically. You took like a disability 6 months
Correct.
because the pain was so bad. And then, excuse me, I take that question again. So you took the 6 months off because your health was in such bad shape. And then during that 6 months, everything cleared up.
Yeah, it was.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was. It was
Yeah.
like I was pain free. Um, I mean, I had little pains
Yeah.
every now and then, but it was nothing like when I go into the office every day.
Yeah.
Um,
And then did you go back after that 6
I
months
did.
and it came back?
It did, and it was so 2008. My fiance and I decided that we wanted to try and start a new family. And so I ended up getting pregnant and I ended up having to leave work, right? So I just, I wouldn't say resign, but I had to leave the school district so that I can pursue this. And I went through that process in 2000, when it went into 2009. I'm sorry, the end of 2000, July 28th, 2028. I ended up having a miscarriage in my second trimester as a result of the lupus. Um,
I'm sorry to hear that.
when they and the unfortunate part is I had to deliver the boys. So excuse me. So when they delivered the boys, my doctor came in and he shared with me. He said, you had a lot of inflammation in your sac, in your stomach. And we were puzzled, like, okay, have you ever seen that? Where, why would that be? And he said, well, I'm gonna run some more tests on you. And then we went through this whole family history. And I told him, I said, well, yeah, my sister has lupus and my daughter has lupus. Um, and then they tested me, and sure enough, I had lupus. I don't know what tests they ran differently than the other doctors, but they discovered it. So that was an unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a very tough way to learn that news and
Yeah.
figure that out. I have been in that situation, believe it or not, and it's horrible. So interestingly, your sister had lupus. What was her lupus story? And I'm interested that nobody either asked you about your family connection, or you never made that family connection, or nobody. It just sort of didn't pop up,
It
huh?
did. I wasn't aware of lupus until then. I mean, well, my sister, I knew my sister had it, but I still wasn't educated about lupus, right? In terms of like, it could be a hereditary thing or anything. I never put the two and two together. I never did that.
Right.
My
How old was she? Is she older, younger?
She's older.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's her kind of lupus arc? When did she get diagnosed?
She was diagnosed in 1998. 1998.
Okay.
But see, she lives in Texas. And so we really didn't communicate a lot. So I knew she had it. She did call me and tell me that she had this. But it affected her kidneys. So and hers was really aggressive. So I still at that point didn't, think to research or anything like that. But yeah, none of the doctors asked about my, if anyone in my family had lupus or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's tough because I mean, this is pre-internet and pre all that, so the information's not easily accessible.
No, not at all. And my sister, she didn't talk a lot about it. Like I said, because she was in Texas and we really didn't communicate a lot. I really didn't know her experience
Hmm. Okay.
until after I had until I had the miscarriage and I was diagnosed. Then she and I had a conversation, and she shared with me, and still today she's suffering a lot as a result of her lupus.
Hmm. And you said you also had a daughter with lupus. Is that,
Yes,
how old is your daughter?
my daughter now is 29. It wasn't until she was 16 when she was diagnosed, but the ironic thing is she was having symptoms when she was in elementary. She would have the red rashes on her face, and she always complained about her joints and aching. And I would take her to the pediatrics, and they say, "Oh, it's growing pains. She'll get over it." But it just kept getting worse.
And when, who was diagnosed first? You were diagnosed before she was.
Yes. No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
She
Okay.
was.
She was.
Yes.
Okay.
She was.
So she was pre the miscarriage. She was
Yes.
born before. Okay. Sorry, I know I led you in a circuitous route
Oh,
there.
no, that's okay.
Okay. So she was diagnosed. She gets diagnosed with lupus at 16.
Mm-hmm.
Your sister has lupus.
Mm-hmm.
Then the puzzle all comes together. The pieces form. And what does that feel like to you? I mean, obviously you're still mourning the miscarriage. And so I assume the wave of emotions is pretty intense.
Yeah, because and and it's bad on me because after my daughter was diagnosed, I had a lot going on. I was a single mom, and I had a lot going on at that time, trying to raise four daughters, working, going to school. It was just a lot. So it was, I say, and when I say bad on me, because I still didn't do the research. I relied on the limited knowledge that the doctor who did discover this to share with me. And I think had I done more research, I would have even mentioned it to my doctors at the time of the going through the pregnancy. But I did not do that. So that was failure on my part. And I think that's why the education is so important, because we can walk around, and because lupus is, as you know, one of those ailments where it mimics so many other ailments. And so it's easily to be misdiagnosed. And I think that there are so many people that are going through these, having these experiences, and not thinking about lupus. That's probably the last thing that they think about. But when I think about women who are childbearing or expecting, if you have lupus family members, get tested. Get
Mm-hmm.
tested.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Why don't we do this? I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about life post lupus diagnosis, and how you got some help, and how it changed your life. So we'll be right back with Connie Sparks.
Lupus LA's Facebook Live Chat series connects leading lupus and health experts with our community to answer the most current and important questions. For more information, visit lupusla.org.
We are back on the Lupus LA Your Story, Our Fight podcast, and we're talking to Connie Sparks. So Connie, you get this diagnosis, all the pieces come together. How does that change your life, your career, what trajectory? I mean, first of all, I assume you realize, okay, this wasn't in my head. This was not, that's got to be a bit of a relief. And so tell me sort of the next step.
Well, after the miscarriage, and coming to realization with my new norm, right? And it took me some time to really accept my diagnosis. Um, and I say that in the sense of, yes, I knew I had lupus, but I still wanted to be normal. So I was still trying to do the normal things. And all it did was made things worse for me. I did reject the medication early on because I don't like taking, medication. And so I thought, okay, I can do this the natural way. And I did that for about a year, and it just didn't work for me. And it just, and I don't know if it was mental or what, but once I knew that I had lupus, it's like it just all exposed. Like it just all came out over my body. I don't know if it's because the stress of learning it, that created such anxiety where it just flared. Um, so after a year of testing the natural route, it did not work for me. So I did end up taking the medication, which I'm really happy and grateful that I did, because it made a huge difference in my life. I did have to make some adjustments with work. Fortunately, at that time, I had my own business, so I didn't have to worry about not being able to going into work or missing work, anything like that. But it was still kind of a learning curve for me, because I had to learn that, okay, Connie, you can't stay up late at night and do the things that you did before. You can't eat the same things. You have to really change your diet. I also had to exercise more, right? Become a little, try to be more health conscious. And so that's what I've been working on. And it's still a work in progress, but I am doing much better. I am doing much
I hear
better.
that.
Yeah, much better. But it has affected my work in the sense that, knowing now that stress is my biggest trigger, and the work that I do, the clients that I have, creates a lot of stress for me. So um, I'm still having my highs and my lows, but it's more manageable now.
So tell me about work. Tell me about the job you created and how you created this company to effectively work with your lupus.
So great question. So one of the things I did as a part of my, mapping out my strategy, I had to think about, okay, if I couldn't work today, or if I had to miss a week or a month, how can my business continue to progress, to move forward? And so I ended up hiring two people. So I hired an assistant, and then I hired a certification specialist. And I hired both of them, and train them in such a way that if I'm not present, you still know how to work and service our clients, right? And I also informed them and educated them about my lupus, and how some days I may not be in the office. I'll have good days, I'll have bad days. And I even had to tell them, if I have a bad day and I snap, don't take it personal.
Tell me, just go back for 1 second. Tell everybody what the business is.
Oh, great. So my company, what we do, we are a government, or should I say supplier diversity contractor. And so we do contract work with public and private sector agencies. We also help small businesses get certified, small business enterprise certified, and so that they too can do contract work with both the public and the private sector. And and that is something that I'm very passionate about, because it's helping families, it's helping communities. And the whole goal of our company is to help companies create a multi-generational business.
So essentially, I have a small business, but I'm not allowed to get government projects because you need to go through a process. You help me go through that process, get certified to accept government work, and then therefore I can apply for government contracts, which creates obviously much more business for my company. My business grows.
Absolutely.
All
Spot
right.
on. Yes,
I
exactly.
got it. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a great niche, I think. And I can see how the clients can be stressful because obviously the process, I'm sure, is complicated.
Yes.
And these are people that are in the midst of driving their business forward, and the red tape is really probably challenging.
Oh, it's and I used to many years ago I would hear the horror stories about working with the government. I mean, there is a process and it is a tedious process, but it's not as bad as people had projected it to be. Once you learn the system and the process, it becomes a lot more easier, and establishing the right relationships was another key thing for me. But the most stressful part is the clients, because some of them do the work, some of them procrastinate, and it causes frustration, because like I want to get this done, and but some of them are just a little more challenging than others.
I'm sure. But I think it's really an interesting approach to let your clients know, look, I have this health challenge. This is what the results could be, but I'm going to lay it all out on the table in front of you. And if you want to use our services, great. If you don't, okay. But this is how it's going to, I think that's an interesting approach.
Yeah, but it's been well received, because it took me some time to even tell people I had lupus. It was because of a lupus meeting that I attended. I think it was the first one that I attended in Hollywood. And the coordinator, she was talking about how important it is to let people that you have to engage with on a daily basis, how important it is to let them know what you're going through, because if you have to miss a meeting or miss an event, you don't want them to think that oh, you're just flaking, right? And I said, that's a good point, because I have had to miss a lot of appointments and a lot of events as a result. And so that's when I started telling my clients and employees and just people that I engage with, hey, I have lupus, and I, kind of educate them about lupus and what my experience is. I even share with them about the spoons. I don't know, have you heard about the spoons?
Yep.
Yeah. So I share with them about
course.
the spoon story, and to really help them understand what I be going through. But, again, they all accept it, and is well received. And they tell me, thank you for letting us know, thank you for letting me know. We'll appreciate that. Now we have a better understanding.
So speaking of lupus support groups and lupus, tell me a little bit about your experience for Lupus LA. I try not to make this show an advertisement for Lupus LA, because I want it to be, not influenced necessarily, but I know your story with Lupus LA is really important. And I know there are other organizations out there who help lupus patients like we do. But I think we do it the best, of course. So I'll let you tell that. Tell me your Lupus LA story.
Yeah. So, how did I get involved? Actually, it was my fiance who found the lupus group meeting, because this was it was summertime and I was really having a bad time. And this was started in 2011. That was my first experience with Lupus LA. So I attended the group, and I really enjoyed the other members that were there, the speakers, the whole support. And we were able to talk, and I felt so good because I wasn't alone, right? So it let me know that if I really needed some support, I can call one of these other women. I can call the support group person. And then they told me about Lupus LA. And I started researching more about the organization, and I don't know, I just fell in love with everything that you guys were doing. I saw the good work that you guys were doing. I was like, okay, this is something I want to be a part of. And so I just started going to the meetings regularly and building a relationship, like with Maggie, and others. And I feel at home with Lupus LA. And I will tell you, the groups have been a tremendous help for me, because I've learned a lot of different techniques, and I don't want to say tools, but more of so techniques and, like exercises that I can do. Like, so if a day that I'm having a bad day, just little things that I can do to stay moving. Because also with that, I don't know if I share with you that I also have fibromyalgia, and I learned that fibromyalgia sometimes follows lupus. And so the support group has been very, very instrumental in my journey right now.
Fantastic. That's great. I love hearing that. And I know you've been at a couple of our events and other things. And I think bringing a patient into the community like that is so important, and it provides such a nice area of support and stability. I'm really, really glad that the organization was there for you. So what's next on your agenda? How's Connie gonna take over the world in 2025?
Well, actually, I am currently working on a new program for small businesses that are interested in working with the government. It is a very unique, something that is not out there on the market at all, but it is a full one-stop curriculum certification program to help small businesses, and it's going to be online. It's actually a hybrid, but it is designed to bring both the business owner and the agencies together through this learning platform. And it's called the Social Equity Certification Program. Supplier Equity Certification Program. And this is designed to educate small businesses on the processes and how to be successful at being a contractor working with the government, but also giving them the tools. So it's a 6-week program that they go through. They get a certification, and this will help them with their approval rate for getting government contracts. Because the biggest thing that the government, not just the government, but even corporations and utilities, these contract officers, they have issues with, is that the newer businesses that have never done work with the government before, they don't know what they're doing, and they make a lot of mistakes. And so it creates a scenario where the contract officers are very hesitant to, even though you may rank number one with the scoring, but because of your lack of experience, they may, no, I don't think so. But with this certification, it's going to add more credibility, because they're going to go through how to invoice a government agency, how to do project management, right? How to manage that project correctly, how to hire the right people. So I'm really excited about that for 2025.
Excellent. Well, Talk about success. I know you're going to have plenty of it. And I'm very happy that your lupus story is going in the right direction. And I thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure, Adam.
Thanks, Connie. On behalf of the entire team at Lupus LA, we thank you for joining the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Please tune in, spread the word, and come back for more inspiring lupus stories. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, wishing you good health, and to always remember, your story is our fight.